The original Star Wars trilogy has undergone some serious cosmetic changes over the past 30 years. Some of those changes have been laughably pointless, whereas some have actively opposed the larger themes of the movies. Han shot first. Unfortunately, due to the notably terrible changes, some fans of the original trilogy have royally trashed literally all of George Lucas's edits, but is it really fair to tar them all with the same brush? In this list, we're working under two assumptions. The first is that the answer to that question is no, it isn't. The second is that you guys hopefully won't send me any letter bombs in angry response. I'm Peter from WhatCulture.com, and here are 10 Star Wars changes George Lucas made that were completely justified. Number 10, the Wampa overhaul, Empire Strikes Back. Luke's encounter with the Wampa in Empire is a standout moment from the original trilogy. It's one of the earliest instances of him moving an object using the Force, besides the obvious, and it's also the first time he ever really uses the lightsaber on another living thing. The scene itself is nothing short of harrowing, the dreaded Wampa lurking somewhere out of sight, ready to pounce at any given moment, Luke stuck to the ceiling by his feet, completely defenseless against his monstrous captor that growls somewhere in the distance. But then in 1997, with the help of Industrial Light and Magic and artist Howie Weed, the Wampa was redesigned, reshot, and inserted back into the film with much more screen time, and I think it works wonderfully. As a big fan of Jaws, I'm well aware that more shots of a monster doesn't necessarily make a scarier or more tense sequence, but in this case, it's spot on. The tension is allowed to build simply by Luke's desperate attempts to free himself, so when Mr. Wampa does finally attack, we're more than ready to see this awesome close-up shot of him with no arm. Brilliant. Number 9, Cloud City windows, Empire Strikes Back. As far as movie locations go, Cloud City is pretty impressive, at least conceptually. Essentially, it's a sprawling city in the skies of Bespin, surrounded by amber clouds, hidden away from unwanted Imperial attention. Strange two-podded ships known as cloud cars crisscross the sky, darting between smooth, rounded towers and shiny domes. It's a thing of beauty, except in the original version of Empire, that is, where it happened to resemble a seemingly unending series of analogous corridors with few signs of life. Honestly, the city may as well have been subterranean. There were barely any windows, meaning that its inhabitants rarely glimpsed the beautiful outside world as they meandered through otherwise bland, endless hallways. For a platform in the sky, Cloud City was downright claustrophobic. That is, until George Lucas actually came up with a good alteration for the films and knocked down a few walls to install a couple of windows and really accentuate the scale and magnificence of the city, granting those tight passageways some much-needed breathing room in the process. And it's actually gorgeous. Good job. Number 8, the Rancor Pit, Return of the Jedi. There have been some horrendous changes to Return of the Jedi, which is probably my favourite of the original trilogy, but the extended sequence of Oola's demise is not one of them. The additional scene depicts her tumble in more detail and shows her knowing reaction as the Rancor cage is slowly lifted and her fate sealed. It's a wonderful touch. Her reaction to what she knows is coming gives the audience a hint of how terrifying the as-yet unseen creature must be. Also, fun fact, this is not a deleted clip that was added back into the movie. These shots were filmed fresh for the special editions in 1997, with Femi Taylor reprising her role, seemingly not having aged a day in 14 years. Amazing. Number 7, ditching the cutouts, A New Hope. The cardboard cutouts at the end of episode 4 always bothered me. They're just so blatantly apparent, standing there unarticulated for the entire world to see. To be fair, it doesn't really take away from the majesty of the moment, but it is just really annoying, like a tiny stain on an otherwise perfect canvas. I mean, if there were this many real extras hired for this scene, why not stick them in the foreground and at least shove the cardboard to the other end of the room? Anyway, Lucas was absolutely right to switch these guys out when the special editions were released. The change is unobtrusive, but it drastically improves the presentation of the entire scene. Number 6, better lightsaber effects, A New Hope. As of the special editions, lightsabers have been drastically enriched in all 3 of the original movies, but most notably in the scuffle between Vader and Kenobi. Compared to what we're used to now, they looked incredibly washed out once upon a time, with blurry, undefined edges and only a hint of colour, and then on top of that, the original cuts actually had a few frames where the special effects guys had apparently forgotten to do any rotoscoping at all. They literally just showed the prop stick that the actors used in filming. Good work, everyone. Now though, the lightsabers appear revitalised, with bolder colours, and thus come across more powerful. It's a fitting change, given that the lightsaber might well be the single most iconic image in all of Star Wars. Number 5, the Blast Doors, A New Hope. Something that often splits the crowd is the notion that stormtroopers being stupid is funny. I think it is, YouTube commenters think it isn't, whatever. I refuse to believe that even the most die-hard fan didn't chuckle even just a little bit when Lucas added the clunk sound effect for when this extra accidentally banged his head on a low-hanging door. And perhaps an even funnier addition to the 1997 releases was this wonderful dialogue.
Close the blast doors! Open the blast door!
Originally, only the latter line was included, but the small change was gold. Having the trooper attempt to trap Solo and Chewie in the hallway, only to have that decision immediately backfire as the two heroes vanish through the closing doors, was perfect. It was almost endearing to see one of these faceless drones so convinced that he was going to be the hero of the day, only to make a major boo-boo that could have happened to any of us had we been in that position. Number 4, Biggs Darklighter, A New Hope. In the 1977 original version of Star Wars, Biggs Darklighter was something of a mystery, an enigmatic figure who was mentioned casually in conversation, but rarely seen. Early on in the film, we learned that Biggs and Luke had been close friends growing up on Tatooine together before Biggs had left home to attend the Imperial Academy. Then nothing, then he dies in the Battle of Yavin and Luke does a face of some sort. Okay. In the 1997 cut, though, all that changed. An extra scene was added in the film that depicts Luke and Biggs reuniting in the Rebels' hangar, finally embracing one another after they'd been separated for so long. When Biggs is subsequently blown to bits during the final trench run, Luke's response comes across as more mournful and empathetic as a result. It's not a different shot to the original, but by showing off their friendship a little better and putting a face to the mysterious Biggs, it's possible for us to read Luke's same expression in a new way. Number 3, Celebrations, Return of the Jedi. The rebellion against the Empire clearly affected the entire galaxy. It wasn't just about a gang of young adults with daddy issues raging against the machine, it was a far-reaching attempt to shift the balance of power across dozens of star systems. Yet, at the very end of Return of the Jedi, at the very end of the entire trilogy in fact, all we get to see is a pretty tame Ewok party. Thankfully though, in later editions, the ending to Return of the Jedi was extended to include even more scenes of festivities taking place across the entire galaxy. Thanks to the change, we get to see Tatooine, Bespin and Coruscant united in celebration at the downfall of the Galactic Empire, unified and optimistic about what the future may bring. One minor note though, this change could have gone without the shot of Naboo being ruined by a background Gungan shouting... That's about as unnecessary gets. Number 2, the Stormtrooper Corridor Chase, A New Hope. This change managed to transform one of the slightly weirder moments of A New Hope into one of my favourite clips of the entire movie. Let's face it, the original version doesn't make that much sense. The Stormtroopers just turn around and realise that they actually outnumber their attackers. These are meant to be trained soldiers. What's going on here? How come they didn't notice sooner? In this version from 1997 though, it comes across as though they're playing hand for a fool as they lead him deliberately down a corridor only to round a corner into a crowded hangar bay complete with a stationary TIE fighter in the background just for extra punch. It might add a totally different potential head-scratcher into the mix, what with this entire squad of troopers just standing around in formation while the entire Death Star is literally on high alert, what? But it's certainly more entertaining. And number 1, Jedi Rocks, Return of the Jedi. Everybody, Ula Wang Chuka Chiki Pata Tenga. I'm joking, it's the replacement of the Emperor in Empire Strikes Back. Ian McDiarmid is a fantastic actor who many fans will forever associate with the prequel trilogy, but though he's more heavily featured throughout Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith, McDiarmid of course made his debut in the Star Wars franchise back in 1983, playing the Emperor in Return of the Jedi. Seeing as how he's played the role in 4 of the 5 films that feature the Emperor, it only made sense that he be added to Empire Strikes Back, bringing everything full circle and inserting some much needed continuity into the casting. But God, that aside, anyone would have been better than the original Emperor. What the hell were they thinking? This guy looks like the Snapchat filter that puts mouths into your eye sockets. An alteration with McDiarmid was not only justified but absolutely necessary. Thank the maker. And that's our list, but did we miss any out? Let us know in the comments below if any other changes by Lucas get your thumbs up. Talking of which, don't forget as always to like, share and subscribe. You can find me on Twitter here and come chat about Star Wars or anything else, or follow What Culture here. I'm Peter from WhatCulture.com, and I'll see you soon.